Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I know Jerry did a video on this the other day, Jerry Ward over at Bios3 Training, and a few people have asked me what's my take on this. Well, I'm not going to really do this as a response to Jerry and break down each of his points. He definitely got a lot of it right in my opinion. But rather than that, I'm just going to answer the question itself that has been spurred by his video, and it's a common question you see in the training world, and it does apply to strength athletes as well, because we get lagging heads of muscles that we need to bring up for performance purposes or stability or injury prevention purposes, so this is relevant. So this is not just a bodybuilding topic, and that question was, can you change the shape of a muscle? And the answer to that question is yes and no. It depends on how many different origins and insertions that muscle has, how many heads it has, and how effectively you can differentiate what part of that muscle you train in what degree with different exercises. And then the time factor. And then we have things that can create the illusion of changing the shape of a muscle because you build up a different muscle. All right, case in point, we'll take some relatively small muscles because this makes it easier to discuss. Let's take the tricep. You've got the lateral head here, you've got a medial head here, and you've got the long head up here. This is really the real meat of the muscle. Now the tricep having those different points, what you'll find is that the lateral head and the medial head are almost always recruited together. But recruiting that long head, there are different exercises that recruit it to a much larger or smaller degree than others. And so if you were to do very long head dominant exercises for a very long period of time, versus if you just did tons and tons of, say, close grip pressing and tricep extensions in a way that don't really hit the long head of the tricep, meaning almost no shoulder extension, you're trying to keep them like this, and you do not move the shoulder at all, you don't do very much overhead pressing. And you compared the two, the muscle would shape completely different. Because of that long head can be so dominant when it develops, and one person would have more dominant medial and lateral heads and maybe a slightly lagging long head, and the other person might have a very, very well developed long head, and that being such a big head of the muscle that's so visible from the side that their tricep would definitely change shape because of the different points of origin on it, and that you can recruit them differently. Something like a bicep that really doesn't do that, you can't do that. But the way your bicep looks can be affected by things like the brachialis, this muscle that runs under here. And I'm not lean enough for you guys to see it, I apologize. But if you look at a really lean bodybuilder or power lifter or athlete, you can see the brachialis, which sits right here. Now what happens with the brachialis is that when you flex the arm, it curls up under the bicep. It rolls underneath right here, and it can push the peak up a little bit. And because of where the brachialis sits on the outside of the arm right here, from the front, it can make the bicep look wider, particularly when you got a t-shirt on. And so if someone really builds up their brachialis, it could make their bicep look shaped different, because from the side, it's going to look thicker down at the bottom, and then when you flex it, it's going to give you a bigger peak. So there's a case of where you can, a muscle can have the illusion of being reshaped because of a separate smaller muscle that is tied in with it. And then we gave an example of with the tricep, to where you can develop different heads of the muscle to a large enough degree that the muscle does actually change shape. So it is very well possible. The thing is, though, is that you need to do is research the anatomy. If you have a particular muscle that you're concerned about doing this with, you're going to have to go pull up an anatomy chart and look at the way that muscle functions and figure out if it is possible for you to bring up a lagging portion of that without massively developing the rest of it in order to change that shape, or if you're just going to have to make the whole muscle bigger in order to get that response. So it's really going to vary a lot from muscle to muscle, so don't just look at it and say that, oh, Jason said you can do this with any muscle or every head of a muscle, because you may not be able to. So if you're really concerned about it, it's important to you, you're going to have to do some research on each muscle yourself. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh.